So, we've already looked at 4 creatures from Philippine folklore. But it's still October. Halloween is literally just around the corner. That's why, today, we will look at yet another creature in our roster of creepies. The chanak. Babies can be innocent and cute, but they can also be scary. You'll know what I mean if you've ever been on a long-haul flight with a baby nearby. And I'm sure many of you may be familiar with this game where the undead come to invade your garden and you have to plant many shrubs or flowers just to keep them away. You know how there's that small one that rides on the back of the biggest one, and the small one gets tossed by the biggest one, very, very annoyingly getting past your defense line? The chanak is something similar to that. It gets past people's defenses by looking like an innocent baby. There are some stories about how chanaks are actually dwarves, pretending to be babies. When they are picked up, the trickster dwarves bite the humans and very mischievously run away. Of course, there are darker versions to these stories. Like this first one, which comes from Mindoro, an island to the south of Luzon. On the island, long ago, there lived a couple who had difficulty having a baby. When the wife finally gave birth to one, the baby died. Heartbroken, the wife stayed home one day while her husband left to do errands. As she was sitting by their window, she heard a baby's cry. Quickly following the sound, she went out of their house to the woods, where she found a baby under a tree. To her surprise, the baby looked just like her baby, the one that had just passed away, which is not creepy at all. The lady brought it home, and since, as the saying goes, breast milk is still best for babies up to 2 years, she fed the baby. Thing is, the baby would not stop feeding. It kept feeding and feeding until she passed out. Her husband came home that night only to find his wife dead on the floor. Chanaks tend to target mothers or even couples who are trying to have children. But there are also stories where, similar to the tikbalang, they can make people lost. Our second story from the southern Tagalog region is an example of how the chanak can lead people astray. Some children were playing hide and seek in some very tall weeds one day. Now, this might not have been the safest thing to do. Certain reptiles like hanging around the tall grass, and who knows what other sorts of monsters can appear in the tall grass. Anyway, so these children were playing hide and seek when one of them went missing. He was found a few days later, a couple of towns away, holding on to a banana plant. When asked what happened to him, he said that another child approached him as he was hiding. The other kid offered him puto, which is a rice cake, and lured him away from his hiding place. When they emerged, they entered a beautiful garden with plants unlike any he'd seen before. And he also saw other sights that were unfamiliar to him. You could say that he was spirited away. Things were all happy until he remembered his parents and said that he wanted to go home. The other child got angry and stormed off, leaving him in this unfamiliar place. He hadn't realized how much time had passed and how far he'd actually traveled. He thought he was gone for just a few hours, which is why he was surprised when they found him a few days later in another village far from home. Chanak as babies, or even as children, may seem harmless, even adorable at first. But it's when you don't realize imminent danger that it becomes even more deadly. The chanak is said to be an unborn fetus that died before it was born. It could have died because its own mother died, or from a miscarriage, or it could have been aborted. Another explanation is that it is a baby that died before it was named, and so it could not go into the afterlife. To vanquish the chanak, the usual fare of garlic or salt would work. If it became a chanak because it is an earthbound spirit, giving it a name may also work. So, I hope you enjoyed our Halloween month videos and learned a little bit more about Philippine mythical creatures. Happy Halloween, and until next time, thanks for watching.